Hey, Roy, how are you today?
Doing well. How you doing?
I'm just fine, thanks.
Awesome. Awesome.
I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me today. I know it's a busy time of year for you.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and I guess, there's so much going on, and the soccer landscape in North Carolina is getting more and more crowded as the years go by.
Mhm.
Congratulations,
Thank you, sir.
are in
Thank you.
order for you with the new job as head coach uh, with the core. And has it started to sink in yet?
Um, yeah, pretty much. I mean, I probably don't get kind of unraveled by all the things that are surrounding it and just stick to what I do and what I know. And basically, I'm just trying to enjoy all my time, enjoy the time being able to be out on the soccer field, enjoy time being able to be with the staff and the players, and just enjoy that, creating knowledge, for the players. I'm just trying to do that. I'm just wanting to do that and not get all wrapped up into things as a coach. I've been a coach for a very long time. I mean, not at the MLS Next Pro level, but still, I'm just trying to take it day by day, just to be honest with you.
When you talk about bringing that experience and leveraging that experience with the players who are in your charge, obviously, these guys are from a different generation. You've been around, you've played in Major League Soccer, you've done the U.S. national team, you've got the experience. You have what these guys want.
Mhm.
How do you go about leveraging that with them and helping this generation of players get to where you've been or beyond?
Yeah, yeah, it's all about that. It's all about giving them tidbits of stories because that's something that they can cling on to, something that they can relate to a lot. Instead of them just looking at me like God or something, which is I let them know I make mistakes all the time, and I try to learn from them, and I try to learn from others. And I got a staff that we learn from each other as well. I allow them to incorporate and inject, and I demand that they give their experiences because these players need to hear their stories because that's what these players are gonna live off of. They're going to live off the stories that we give them, not just the trophies and the rings that we've won, but how we got those. And so, bringing that experience is major. It is absolute major. I every single player that I brought in here, I didn't just look at their nice highlights. I mean, they did right by making them all good, but I knew a lot of them. But the ones that I didn't know and were very interested, and agents are sending me highlights, and I looked deeper. I looked at games. I went back and looked at maybe two or three games of them completely. And I saw their attitudes with the ball, without the ball, how they related to their teammates, how they responded to their coaches, just all those kind of things before bringing them in, because I do want to have a certain personality and certain character that I want to bring in to this organization. So, um, most of the time I'm going to get it right. There are some times I may get it wrong with players because they're new to me, So my biggest thing is the connectivity with them. And I think if you're not going to connect with your players, it's going to be very hard, no matter what type of, no matter how good they are. Connecting with your players is really, really important. Those are the players that really give everything they got for you and the organization. And for me, that's paramount. That's the most important.
And I guess for a developmental league like MLS Next Pro, that's even more important because the emphasis is on development as opposed to strictly wins and losses.
That's right. There is a balance. Yes, that is exactly right. There's a balance, and there's probably an added balance to an independent team because at the end of the day, we do want to try to sell players too if we can. Sell them my message is to all these players: don't try to pitch a tent here. Here's where you're not gonna make your money here. You're gonna make your money at the next place, but here you're gonna respect the process You're going to give it every ounce you got because everybody is in that aspiring to get to the next level as coaches and players. We're all doing that. And so we're all in the same boat. We just you as a player and I'm as a coach. So when they start to see those type of things and hear those type of things, they know we're in it all together. And so I think, players can relate to that better, and so that's what we're looking for players in this organization. And you're right, that developmental piece is major, and we can't forget that, right? Although we want to win the game, and yes, we are winners. We want to win, and that's for sure. I've never lost that. It's I don't think anybody's more of a winner than me, but I have to tailor that. I have to make sure that there's priority also set aside for development and having good character and having being genuine and being a good citizen and all those is within that.
It's interesting you talk about the development. It's not only for players, but for the coach and the coaching staff as well. Is that a goal of yours to move up that coaching ladder as well?
It
And
is.
and how far up the ladder?
Yeah, as far as I can go. I mean, I'll take. I'd like to be Major League Soccer. I'd like to be coaching a country. So, but at the same time, I'm going to respect the process that I'm in. I'm going to respect where I am and do good where I am, and be on the details of where I am. And so, I think that's the most important. I'm not here to look for a way out. I want that to be understood completely. I'm not here just to look for an out. I'm here to develop myself well enough that one day if an opportunity is created, well then I can look at the situation and pursue another level if it makes sense. Because here I got people that can understand me, like Eddie Pope and my staff that I brought in personally. Um, I have, I don't want to just venture off into Major League Soccer where now you're amongst the wolves, right? You're amongst the wolves, and it's 3 games, 4 games, and it's not favorable, and now your job is on the line. Well, I'm going to put myself in that situation anywhere I go, and so I do want to be in a place where I'm understood. I do want to be in a place where I'm allowed to express myself as a coach, bring forth my ideas, and try to have them executed by players on the field. I do want that. I think I've been coaching in Major League Soccer too with the Houston Dynamo, with their U20s and the MLS Next Pro, and then 4 games with the first team as an assistant coach. So I've had some experience and seen how that can be in those environments.
You're a you're a North Carolinian. You have roots here. Played soccer here. I guess
Hmm.
Lees McRae, then NC State, and on to Major League Soccer.
Hmm.
20, 30 years ago, would you have believed if you'd gone back into time and told your younger self, North Carolina is going to be a hotbed of soccer when you were coming up through the ranks? Would your younger self have believed that?
I don't know. You're right. That would have been hard to believe, but uh, North Carolina's always had a lot of soccer. In my youth days, it was a ton of soccer. Everybody was playing soccer when I was young, when I was, you know, 12, 13, 14 years old. Everybody was playing soccer. So it was big. And soccer was big in North Carolina. Even then, in the youth, it was really big. But not on the professional level. And I think it wasn't on the professional level in many places. But still, in the youth, North Carolina's always been big, and with the help of the colleges that are around here too, that's big as well. So soccer in the youth part has always been big in North Carolina, always been big. So was I thinking about it like that back then, 20, 30 years ago? Probably not. Was I thinking of myself being a coach back at that time? Yes, because even towards the last, you know, 6, 7 years of my career, I'd always thought like a coach. I'd always, I had to have a high level of understanding the game. If I was going to be a striker and score goals as a striker, I had to learn to read the game. and read it fast and be at least 2 plays ahead. And so I read the game a lot. I studied the game. I was a student of the game a lot. My tail end of my career, even before then, I had to study more. As you become less and less of an athlete, you got to study more to gain an edge in certain areas. So that's what I did. So I could see myself being a coach, and I could see even back then, North Carolina had the potential of being, being, being a hotbed of soccer.
And, and to that point, I guess the thing is that over the last 20 years or so, it's just exploded, not only on the amateur level, but obviously, with Charlotte FC, a couple of MLS Pro teams, the Courage, not to mention the Division 2, Division 3 clubs that are in the Triangle and in Charlotte. It's professional soccer is all over the place now.
Mhm. Yeah, it is. It's definitely growing, and I'm glad um, here in the Triad they saw fit to put a MLS Next Pro team here. You probably would have thought it would have been what Raleigh would have been the spot to be, because now we're so close to Charlotte, But I'm glad they were able to get that done. That was able to get across the line and be a possible venue for a professional team. But yes, they have a lot of professional soccer here in North Carolina alone.
Mm. And you look at the landscape now where you have a team that's in the triad, you got a team in Charlotte, you're in the same league, which is something that adds a little extra spice to it all. Talk a little bit about, if you would, having two teams that are barely an hour separated from each other in two major metros of Charlotte and North Carolina. You talk about the Greensboro, High Point area. Uh, what will that look like in your estimation? Not, understanding that the rivalry hasn't really taken root yet, but what do you anticipate that will look like between the Charlotte club and Core?
Yeah, first of all, Charlotte has a couple of years on us already, so they're ahead of us in terms of their base. They're ahead of us in terms of their knowledge and experience in MLS Next Pro. They have a professional team that is above that. So they're pretty much ahead of us, and they're in a kind of a metropolitan city. They're in a big place, and where they can attract a lot of players and a lot of people, and they do. Their first team for sure. Crown Legacy was very successful last season. So they're ahead. They're ahead of us, and so I see it being good. And that all depends on what happens on the field. That all depends on how that grows and how that builds. But I think it's a good, healthy thing. I think it's what is needed for our players to grow. I think our community can support each other. The ones that support the core, ones that support Charlotte. I think it can be a really good thing in this area. Yeah, you're right. They're real close, real close. And so I see it being healthy. I see it being very, very healthy. I think I see it being a real cool thing, actually, having that rival like that, if you want to call it a rival, I guess. But that's only created by fans and stuff like that. I mean, the players don't, they just go in and play, and whoever they play, they play.
Yeah, well, but if you give it some time, maybe some good, healthy dislike, if not outright hate, will help juice it up some.
Well, I mean that's what rivals. That's what the word rival is, right? I mean, one is against the other one, right? So, at the end of the day, it's pretty cool. It's just a good thing. It's like New York teams, or stuff, or Florida teams, and California teams. They build their rivals because they're so close. And that's why they're rivals, right? So I think it's a good thing. I think it'd be a real good thing on this level.
Now, one of the things that stood out to me when doing some research on Carolina Core and its leadership, obviously you as the coach, Eddie Pope as the sporting director. It's two black men. Yeah.
Mhm.
And you and I are old enough to have heard the stories over the years about soccer and and where black folks in the US fit in it. Uh, is that something that you've given much thought to in terms of with this particular franchise, the people who are responsible for the on-pitch product and putting that team together is entrusted in the hands of two black men?
I would have never dreamed that, but um, I'm glad things are evolving. Um, I've been rejected before. I've been other people have picked other people before, and not necessarily for them having more experience than me. Um, because I felt I've always had it, but I'm gonna be truthful here. I haven't, I did not pursue it so hard. I didn't pursue being a professional that much. I was selfless with my family. I didn't want to be moving all around all the time, and so I chose to just to be a director of youth soccer for 21 years, going 22 years. And yeah, sprinkled in being assistant coach for college for 2 years, sprinkled in being U23 coach, sprinkled in being U20s of the Dynamo, and assistant coach at MLS NEXT Pro with the Dynamo. Sprinkle that in with being, coaching at MLS, and then coaching assistant with the U20s men's national team. Um, you just sprinkle those in, and that's how I kind of gained my experience in there and having to network. And yeah, it's always been tough. It's always been tough, and I could not have dreamed that. I could not have dreamed it at all. I'm thankful. Only God put me here, to be honest with you. So that's just how it is. Or he worked through Eddie, because Eddie and I have known each other for a very long time, roommates for 8 years with the national team and with uh, DC United. And I've always trusted Eddie. Always, always. He's always been the same. He's never shaded, faded anything on me at all. He's always been that type of guy. Always honest, always steady, always truthful. And that's why we had been nearly best friends for a really long, long time. And so he was the only guy I would have trusted, because there were opportunities at DC United. There was other opportunities potentially at Nashville. There was and then there, and I had the position at the Houston Dynamo already. So I, but I came here large in part because of Eddie, because I trusted him being here, seeing him here, him giving me the vision, and showing me the vision of what it could be. My thing is that before I even wanted to sign here, I wanted to see who was in charge. I wanted to see the ownership. I wanted to hear them. I didn't want it just to be just some wealthy people that just wanted to put their money somewhere and that you don't rarely see them, because that's in other places. That's definitely in other places. You rarely would see an owner. You rarely would see them. And so I just needed to see them. And Eddie got me in front of every last one of them. And so um, I wanted them to know where I was coming from, because this is you're talking about moving my family and uprooting. And yeah, it's North Carolina and it's nearly it's home, but I hadn't moved back and lived in North Carolina since I was in college. So it my decision was very easy once I knew Eddie was involved, once he called me, and because we were talking before. And so I um I could not have imagined, you know, Eddie Pope being the GM, myself being a head coach, and I mean together. I can imagine myself being a head coach, but not having it like this. So I'm thankful, and the people in the ownership here, they're fantastic. They're absolutely fantastic. They are good people. They care about people. I don't think they are looking at color or anything like that. They really do care about people, the well-being of people. That's first and foremost, and so do I. People are who runs the organization. Without people, there's no organization. So um, that's just where I am. Their thought process was nearly the same as mine in terms of that. The players that I have, I care about them more than I even care about winning the game. That is honest. That is the honest truth. And so, and that happened to me at Houston Dynamo. And I felt that if I took care of the players, if I helped them out in every aspect of their game, on and off the field, the results would take care of themselves. And Houston Dynamo for 2 years, I didn't lose a regular season game. So I just kept going. I hear stories all the time. How coaches can really kill the player. Not all coaches. There are fantastic coaches out there. I mean, I got to really learn to be on their level. But there are some that are just the egos are in the way, and their pride is in the way, and the players forgotten, and the players dropped, and we're talking about good players too. We're talking about players that could come up and be really good players and have a really good living in the sport, and they've been set back for one reason or another. So it accelerated me to get more to go forward and go be a professional. I always knew I had it. I always knew I could do it. I always knew I could read the game well enough. I stepped across the line to get all my licenses. I'm still wanting to do my A Pro, and I will do that too.
And I guess also with the independent nature of Carolina Core, it doesn't have an MLS affiliate. It's pretty much on its own in terms of developing and doing all the things that a soccer franchise has. What are the advantages to that, and what are the disadvantages? And I guess there are the obvious disadvantages that I just laid out, but what are some of the advantages?
I think that one advantage is that being an independent club, you are the first team. So when you're at places like an MLS franchise team, you're not the first team. And in our training sessions, we can have our complete roster in training every day of the week. Where in an MLS franchise, you could have 4 or 5 guys gone to train with the first team. Not even you could find out that morning. So your training would have to be tailored, and you'd have to adjust, which makes you a better coach. You can adjust that and go on. So those are definitely some of the disadvantages. And I think some of the facilities at these in Major League Soccer clubs are very, very nice, very good, very professional. It helps that player to be very professional as well. So they have more resources. So that's another advantage for people that's an advantage for Major League Soccer clubs. But I think also another disadvantage that we have is the player pool. That player pool becomes very big at the Major League Soccer club, where ours, if we want it big, we will have to provide more resources to do so. Um, uh, Major League Soccer really doesn't have they can have people come out from everywhere that are totally interested and totally talented, and they will have the personnel, meaning they will have the rostered number of players that they need, whereas we would have to go out and resource those players to have those players. So that's just the difference in those two. I know I jumped around a little bit on that one, but those are kind of some of the differences. I think also the advantages for independence that we can pay a player what we want to pay them. And so I think that is we can have any kind of age we want to have. And I think that's the same for Major League Soccer, but I think they stay at a certain age in MLS NEXT Pro. And we try to too, because we know the meaning of it. Um, so those are some of the advantages and disadvantages of having an MLS franchise.
So in your instance, it sounds as if, you know, in addition to that pool, you may be able to better access a different kind of player, a player who's really hungry and is willing to go out there and, sweat and do the extra thing just
Yeah.
to get into that ladder and move up.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think also an advantage for us is the Major League Soccer club, the main focus is the first team. It's not the MLS Next Pro team. The first team is the main source. So if that first team doesn't see that this MLS Next Pro player is going to be able to get inside of that first team roster, then he's really of not much use. That's when it becomes a really good advantage for the independent team, because now that independent team would take them, see the good in them, put them on the field, and let them go. Whereas that player once was in an MLS Next Pro MLS franchise, but after a couple of years, they figured out he's not going to fit. After they figure that out, gone. They don't need him anymore. We go to the next, or we pull them from the academy. So that's where it becomes advantageous for MLS Next Pro independent team for getting players throughout the country.
Mm-hmm. I know that one last question. When you talk about coming back to taking on Crown Legacy, that's your first opponent.
Mm-hmm.
You only have but so many days left before that. Instead of asking what would success look like in terms of wins, losses, and draws, what does success look like overall for a first-year club that it still has a lot of moving parts? You're still figuring out players, rosters, strategies, whatever. What does success look like for you in terms of this first year with Carolina Core?
Well, one, a winning record. That's one, a winning record. I think season tickets and people coming to games and people are excited when they see our games. That's another success. And then being able to sell a player to Major League Soccer or to Europe or Central South America. So just being able to move players along, being able to produce players that could play on our youth national team or senior national team in any country, not just the U.S., in any country. That's what success is as well. So that's what I see. Carolina Core is already moving off the field in the right direction, building multi-million dollar facilities for our players and staff. So that's already good. We already having a complex. We're already having a youth base. So consuming a youth club. So we're already doing things of that nature that are off the field that are preparing us for success down the road. But in this first year, that's what success would look like for me. I think number one, a winning season. I think with the personnel we have as a staff and with the players that we have on the field, that is obtainable. I think also being able to gain interest of other clubs outside within the United States, meaning leagues that are higher than ours, than the one we play in, or somewhere overseas in another country, and us being able to um sell a player off or loan a player out to much higher level organization and league is a success as well. So that's what I see being successful, as well as having people attend the games.
Promotion on both ends, on and off the field.
So
Get
that's how I had to, that's how I think as a coach. So I'm thinking on all those levels, right? Not just absolutely on the field. Those other, you know, tangible or intangible things are things that I think about as well.
Okay. Well, it's been an honor to talk to you today. Don't get to talk to legends every day, but it's a good start today.
Hey, I
And
appreciate it. I appreciate it a lot.
much success to you. And I can't wait to see you guys when they take the pitch. And it's going to be a great ride. And hopefully we will see each other again.
You got it, man. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.